Welcome to tutorial number 9, another one I'm excited about. Today we're talking about designing a level from start to finish and all the steps you go through in that process. So let's jump right in. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be covering the two sides of level creating from start to finish. First is the technical side, and then from a design perspective. And so firstly, I'm going to show you the technical side of making a level. So in Unity, I recommend that you make a template scene, which you can use for all your new levels. The easiest way to do this is to open a scene, go to Workshop, Scenes, Levels, and then just open the beginner level. Now in this level, this is a good template. We can destroy the upper floor and the lower floor, and then rename this just a level. And now we have a blank scene which has a spawn point, a fall trigger, a pass trigger, a directional light, and a checkpoint. And we can see it comes up with the ability to export it. And so this is a really good template. I'm going to file, save scene as, and then just here in my assets folder, I'm going to call it template scene. And now whenever I want to start a new level, I can just say file, open scene, and then I can copy the template scene, make a copy, and name this whatever I want. I'll call it space scene for now. So I can open this, and this is my new scene now. One of the first steps in a new scene that you should always do is go to Window, Lighting, Settings, and unchecking this auto generate box. You won't ever need that in the scenes you're making. And then in this case, I want to change the skybox to space. That's included because this is a space scene. Okay, so I just made this tiny little example scene. It's really nothing, but it's going to be good for me to test and to show you the process from start to finish that this is going to take. So again, I need a thumbnail for this level. I showed you this previously, but I might as well show you again. If I say human export, it'll have the thumbnail for the previous scene that I had a thumbnail for. So I'm going to go to play mode, select F8 on my keyboard, scroll to where I can see a good thumbnail for my level, and then hit F9. So now that'll be the thumbnail for my level. Now all I have to do is press human export, write something in the description, such as this is a great level that I made in space. It's good for such and such many players. And here's some notes I have about how to have fun in this level that I made. And it'll always be helpful if you put in a good description for your level. And now here's a little note on the title for your level. Usually the more simple the title, the better. 1 or 2 words, maybe 3. Look at the levels that won the competitions. There were Factory, Thermal, and Golf. And these names for levels are really easy to remember. They're descriptive of the level you're making, and they're unique. And so don't get too crazy with your level titles. Best to keep it simple. So I'm gonna call this Space Tree, as easy as that. And by hitting export, this level will now be playable inside of my human fall flat game. After, of course, it finishes the whole export process. There we go. That took around a minute for my computer. You can tell the export is done when you can right click and you can move your camera in your scene. Now in the game, you can select play, local, select level, local levels, and it'll show all the levels that you've exported. So I'm gonna click on my space tree one, and I'm gonna show you a trick I use all the time. I found a glitch in my level and I'm playtesting it. Something you can do is you can go back to your Unity. You can fix whatever, change whatever. In this case, I'll put down this ball because I realized I need this ball in my level. And now I'm going to hit export again. Oops, this ball is not in my level object, so it needs to be in my level object, just like that. So now I can hit export. And after it finishes exporting in my level, I can hit escape and then hit reload level. And this will keep my player in the same spot, but it'll reload the level. So any changes I made in Unity, which I then exported, will then be made inside this level. All right, so let's say I got this to an area where I'm ready to publish. So I'm ready to publish this level. I'm gonna go back to the main menu. I'm gonna go to local levels. I'm going to find this level and hover over it with my mouse, and then come down here and select Publish to Workshop. And that is everything you need to do to publish a level you've made in Unity on the Human Fall Flat workshop on Steam. When it finishes, it'll pull up something like this, and you can scroll down, and as you can see right here, it says Current Visibility Hidden. So initially when you publish, no one will be able to see it except for you. And what I would recommend you do is you come down and you look at this, Change Visibility. I would change it to Friends Only, and then I would play test it in multiplayer with some of your friends. And then you can see, especially if one of them is hosting the game, if you have all the appropriate net bodies. If you find any objects that move for the host of the game, but they don't move for whoever's playing with them, then you need to add a net body to that rigid body. And if you test it and something's wrong and you want to re-upload it, as long as you don't change the name of the scene, the name of the export, or the name of the project file, so you don't change the name of any of the files, you can just come back, and if you hit Publish to Workshop again, it will just update the file that you already have published in the workshop. So even a month down the line, when a lot of people have been playing my level, if I want to make a change to it, as long as I haven't changed the name to any of the files, I can publish it again. It will just take the place of that previous level on the workshop, and I've updated my level. And now just to show you, once everything's ready to go, you should hit Change Visibility and make it public, and then your level will be available for everyone to play on the workshop. So that logistically is your start to finish process of what you need to do to get a level started and published on Steam. Now, here to talk about the process of designing a level, I actually have a special guest, so I'll cut to that footage now. So we are joined by Prince S, or we'll just call him Simon because that's his real name. You'll know him as the creator of golf. He's the one that won the previous sports competition. And I asked him to join me here because he has a way that he makes levels that's different than mine, but it'll probably work better for you or for a lot of creators, depending on your personal preferences, just how you like to make levels.
Yeah, I'm Simon. I am currently a level design student from Sweden, but some of you might know me as Princess, the developer of the Human Fall Flat level Golf. I'm very excited to be here today and hopefully shine some light on how you can bring your ideas into a beautiful level.
So my first question, Simon, is once you heard about the sports competition and you decided to make a golf level, what really was the first step you took to start designing it?
My first step in making a level is usually by using a program called PureRough. I go on to the internet and I'm looking for all kinds of pictures for inspiration and reference images, just like get some ideas in my head. You know, could I have a volcano in my level? Could I have dunes in my level?
It's funny, looking at this, I recognize a lot of your level design from these pictures.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And this is like very, very good to have on one screen when you're working, just to like keep reminding you on what type of level you're making and where you can take inspiration from. And once that's all done, I like to go to the paper design phase of level design. Basically, I just sit down and I doodle all kinds of ideas that pop up in my head that might have with golf to do or sports or whatever. Like, no idea is stupid at this point.
Yeah, it's probably the proper way to do it. It's a lot easier to change your design on paper than after you've built it out in Unity to go back and change something.
Yeah, you can see it as like if you were building a house, you would probably want to make as many big changes and iterations as possible as early as possible, preferably on paper. You wouldn't build your entire house with a garage and you're painting everything blue, and then you realize that the garage is on the wrong side of the house, because then it'd be really costly and take a lot of extra time just to like tear down the garage and build it on the other side.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's funny. So after you got it down on paper, what was your first step like in Unity?
Yeah, so I open up ProBuilder and I try to make what's called a blockout. It's essentially where you're blocking out the entire level, very ugly, very quick, but you just want like the entire thing to be there. And then you can start making it a bit more detailed so that you can see that this is supposed to be a windmill and this is supposed to be a flag. And that's called the white boxing or gray boxing phase. And that's also where you're trying to get all of your gameplay to work. So you bring in all of your friends to playtest your level, and if they think it's fun, that's when you're gonna be able to replace all of your ugly block assets to something that looks a bit more pretty.
So you get it 100% working, so it's a working level in this block phase.
In the white boxing phase, you want all of the gameplay to actually work. Because if you're making your level pretty like this and then you realize that the windmill isn't working, that's going to be very costly and take a lot of time to redesign the entire level. So yes, you want all of your scripts to work when your level is ugly. When I'm making my levels, I like to place a camera somewhere in the scene. That's a good overview. And then at the end of every day, I disable the main camera and I enable the second camera and just take a screenshot. And then I put them all in a folder, and it gives me kind of a mental boost just to see how far I've come from like a week ago or from a month ago. And it's also great.
We didn't have very much time for the sports competition.
No, exactly. And it becomes this like very nice GIF to look at as well when you're putting everything together. So as you can see, my very first block out, I had a completely different vision of what I wanted the level to be. And then because of it was just, the level's just made out of these blocks, it's very easy to just rearrange them to something that feels more nice, keep what felt nice about the last iteration, and then keep building upon it until you eventually get something that feels good enough for you to replace the assets with the real assets. So the real volcano and the real grass and the real mountains and the real castle. And so this screenshot is pretty interesting as well, because I designed it in such a way that I wanted to give the player a good view of their long-term goal and their short-term goal of the level. And so they can both see the flag, which is the hole where the player falls down to complete the level, but also the windmill, which is their next short-term goal. And this is like designed also in the white boxing and the blockout phase. And then I can do what's called a paint over. I just take a screenshot and I paint it, and I try to visualize how it might look when it's finished.
Again, that paint over you did is so reminiscent of the first time I played the level, walking out into the area. Like what you envisioned there really came to life in the actual level. Really
That's great. Yep.
The trees and the rocks you have here, those are prefabs from the workshop package, right?
Exactly. So you shouldn't be afraid to use prefabs that are already there. I wanted to make my own windmill and I wanted to make my own volcano, but since there were such great rocks and foliage to use, I just used them instead, especially in the very early phase. If you have access to such assets, then by all means use them.
After you've modeled everything in ProBuilder and gotten the ugly version down, what's kind of the process you go through to get the pretty version 3D modeled?
So what I like to do is, since I know that the scale is correct in ProBuilder, I can just take a few of these blocks at a time. I can go into Tools, ProBuilder, Export, and then I can export it as an OBJ and import it into either Maya or Blender or whatever 3D program, 3D modeling program that you like to use. And then you can kind of clean it up and make it look pretty. And then when you import it back into Unity, you know that the scale is going to be correct and everything's just going to work. And that's really one of the benefits of working like this.
Yeah, that is super smart. I had no idea you could export ProBuilder objects. And I always suffer in Blender when I'm trying to model something that I don't have any scale to work with.
Yeah.
Like exactly. I don't know how wide I need to make it. Like if I'm trying to make a bridge between two islands, for example, it's really hard getting the scale exactly right and having them morph it inside of Unity. So exporting like that, that's a really cool idea.
Yep.
Man, I'm gonna have to start doing that. Jumping into it as your very first human fall flat level, what were your biggest obstacles and like the things you wish you had known?
I think the biggest hurdle for me was the node graph scripting system. I had a lot of struggles with it, especially for the contest, and there was a lot of time pressure, etc. And so I asked for help in the Human Fall Flat Discord workshop support channel, and there were a lot of people, including you, who were very helpful and giving me lots of advice on how I could script all of the systems that I wanted. So that's like one of the biggest thing I recommend to any up-and-coming level designers for Human Fall Flat levels. Just ask the community if you ever get stuck on anything.
What is your like indicator that part of your level is fun? How do you know what you're making is fun and if it's not going to be fun?
Fun is hard to pinpoint because it's very subjective from person to person, and you really can't make everybody happy. What I tried to do with this level was to make it not frustrating, at least, because the last thing I'd want was for someone to rage quit or just like exit out of the level. So I intentionally put out a lot of checkpoints and made it quite forgiving, which, you know, that could be controversial. Some people really enjoy the challenge of obstacle courses and puzzles in Human Fall Flat, but personally I went for a more casual approach. But I think what's most important when making something that's going to be fun for others is for others to playtest it. Because in the end, you're not making these levels for yourself. What you think is fun might not be fun for others at all. And since you're the developer, you also know all of the solutions and know how all the systems work. If a first-time player of your level can't figure out how to get through it, then like you can't blame them.
Exactly.
It's probably something with the level that has to be fixed.
I agree that playtesters is one of those things that you absolutely need.
Yep.
With Factory, they were my level that won the first competition.
Mm-hmm.
I had playtesters who I would not have been able to win without them. Like you really need someone who's going to be honest with you, who plays a part of your level and says, that is not fun.
Yeah.
Or I did not understand what I was doing there, and I didn't feel accomplished when I finally did it.
Yeah.
And it's you need someone to be honest. And what do you do when you have someone tell you that something isn't fun? Or like you get through an obstacle and you realize maybe it's not as fun or as interesting as you thought it was.
So there's this saying in the video game industry. We like to say, kill your darlings. And it's very important to remember, because sometimes you just hold your level or your idea so close to heart that you don't wanna take it away from the experience. But you have to realize some point that it may be best for the game or for the level for you to just kill your darlings and let the level create itself instead. If something is...
Did you have any darlings that you had to kill here on the golf level?
Absolutely. My very first idea was for this to be like an open world level, like a really huge golf course, and then you had to drive around in the golf carts to get from each obstacle course to the next, and then when you've completed all of them, you could like go
sort of like a real golf course.
Exactly. And then when you've completed all of them, you could head to the main goal and unlock the finish. But I kind of realized or noticed that people didn't think driving around in the golf carts was that fun or intuitive. So I just had to like scrap that idea entirely. What I did do instead was I kept the golf cart segment, but I made it into something very more simple. So I removed the steering wheel, for example, so all the player can do is jump in, put the pedal to the metal, and just like crash into a bunch of boxes for a bit of serotonin release. I also tried to make it so there was a shortcut here. So if you steered to the right, you could like go down a ramp and fly all the way over here. But it just didn't work, and that was a darling I had to kill as well. One thing you can try to add to your levels to make them more fun is for the finish to be like a great climax that leaves a good impression of the level.
Like everyone who plays your golf level remembers jumping into the golf ball and rolling down the big ramp into the hole.
Exactly, and that kind of reflects the entire level as well. So you get up here again and you get to see the entire level that you walked through, and you've done all of these golf-themed obstacle courses.
And you get to see the big golf sign as well.
And so the final challenge, it's not supposed to be hard. It's just supposed to be fun and memorable and leave a lasting impression. And that's something that I think really can contribute to the fun factor of your level. Have a lot of moments that feel fun for the player, not necessarily difficult. It's the same thing when you're getting launched up the volcano or crashing down the hill with the golf cart or being hit by this giant golf club. They're not necessarily difficult, but they're fun little moments that make the player smile, hopefully.
I think that's one thing that your level did extremely well, was have moments that are a lot of fun, but if you mess up, it's no big deal. Like, you can just walk down that ramp into the finish. Or if someone took the golf cart ahead of you, you can just walk down that ramp and no one's ever going to be frustrated.
Exactly.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Simon. This has been very good.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see where you go in your career.
Thanks. I wish all the luck to all of the future level designers of the Human Fall Flat community. If you guys ever have any questions, you can reach me on Discord or Twitter. I'm always available for level design help.
Sweet. Following Simon's method will save you a lot of time, and you'll end up getting a really fun level out of it. And equally important to following his method is following your own method, because everybody creates levels differently. And your process of creativity and trial and error is going to work out differently than mine or his. And so as long as you're practicing and you're getting something down, you're on the right track. Now I'm just going to add a few personal notes on what I think makes a good community level. So first, your level has to be different or unique in at least one or two ways. So before you start your level, think, what is going to make this different? Or what's going to make it unique? Or what's going to make it fun? For example, some of my levels started with the simple ideas of a lake of lava where you collect gems, or a level where there's lots of wheels that spin you and throw you places, or a level that occurs on the top of rooftops, or a level that occurs on a space station. So I always start with a unifying idea for the level, and then I try to stick to that theme throughout the rest of the level. I would also recommend that your first levels you keep simple. I mean, look at the official levels. A level does not need to be complex to be fun, like I talked about with Simon. Fun is a really mysterious thing, and sometimes people get ideas that are just super complex and they sound a lot of fun, but really the player could have just as much fun playing that level with a much simpler idea. So there's no need to think super complex with your beginning levels. And make sure your level has variety in it. No one wants to do the same puzzle twice in a row. So as soon as someone completes a jumping puzzle or a type of other puzzle, make sure not to repeat it. Keep a lot of variety in your level, in the type of puzzles and in the pacing of those puzzles. And now I'm going to tell you some things that we know are not fun in levels. And some of those things are long walks. Nobody likes to walk a long ways with nothing to do on that walk. Even if what you're looking at is really pretty, eliminate those long walks, keep them short. You'll notice in the official levels, the next puzzle is almost always immediately right there. There's not any long walks. People also don't like to be confused. They don't like to get to a puzzle and have no idea what they're supposed to do. Like we talked about with Simon, make sure your destination is clear, your goal is clear, and it doesn't have to be easy. I mean, by no means you have to make it easy, but players just don't like to be confused for what they're supposed to be getting to or where they're supposed to be going. You need to maintain a sort of sense of direction in their level. And a lot of the times, you as the creator, you won't know how clear your level is. That's why you need really good testers, because as the creator, you already know where you're supposed to be going, and it's not going to be easy to tell if it's clear or not. So get some play testers, they'll let you know if it's confusing or not. And the last thing that players don't find fun in this game is if there's only one possible way to finish a puzzle. Players love finding alternate routes, they love finding ways to feel like they're cheating or jumping over walls they're not supposed to. And so in my beginning levels, I kind of made a mistake of trying to make it as hard as possible to climb over or to cheat your way through puzzles. But recently, I found the more alternate routes there are, or the more different ways a player can make it through your level, the almost more fun they're going to have. So leave those side routes open. If you accidentally have a shortcut in your level where you kind of have to do a little jump and a swing to get through it, but you can skip a portion of it by doing that, by all means, just leave it, because players will take that shortcut and they will love it. They'll have so much fun feeling like they skipped a puzzle. And then my last recommendation for making your level fun is just think back to what you enjoyed most in the official levels. What facilitated the most fun that you had while playing the game your first time through? And that is what you want to get to when you're making your own levels. And again, with your beginning levels, please just start simple. For example, my first level, Get Hurled, I didn't 3D model anything on my own. I didn't use Pro Builder or Blender or anything. I just used the generic cubes and cylinder shapes, and I made stuff that would throw you. Then everything else in the level was just a prefab that was included in the workshop package. And because the level was fun, it did really well in the workshop. Now looking back on it, I realized that there's a lot of long walking in that level that I would eliminate now. And there's not as much of a sense of progression. I would rather the player move through the level instead of having to come back to the same room over and over. And so looking back on my very first levels, I realized what I would have done differently now. But I made my first level without 3D modeling anything. And I made my first 3 or 4 levels without ever touching the node graph. And so just stay simple with your first levels and just get something small and something fun published, and then you can slowly work yourself to bigger, more complex levels as you learn to 3D model and master the node graph. So that wraps up tutorial number 9. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed recording it. And just be easy with yourself on your first levels. It's okay. You'll get better. It's only by making our first few kind of shoddy levels that we actually get to making our really great levels that we're super proud of. And so the most important step is just starting and doing what you can. Our next tutorial, tutorial number 10, is actually going to be the last tutorial in this series. And I'm going to be going over all the final things that I think you need to learn, including some tips and tricks that I've learned through trial and error inside of Unity, and hopefully round off your knowledge so that you'll be able to do everything you need to get your levels published. That's coming next Wednesday. Stay tuned.